Hey guys, welcome to the Creative Living with Bren Haas podcast. I'm Bren Haas, your host, and I'm sharing with you from my home and garden in Northwest Ohio, USA. That is Hardiness Zone 5B if you're a gardener. Today, I've got a very special guest, a fellow Garden Chat friend who has just had her very first book published. You won't want to miss this show if you are thinking about publishing a book or you just want to be inspired to grow something you love this year. We welcome Emily Murphy to the show. You may know her as at Pass the Pistol on social media. You can follow her on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest. She's all over the place. On today's show, Emily tells us where her social media handle came from and about her book that includes a 158-page plant directory to help you select seasonal ingredients. Before diving into the interview, you have to check out my website where you can find last week's Garden Chat on Twitter event. It's awesome. You can click on the live links, see all the conversation from amazing gardeners and other folks who use Twitter to share awesome gardening things they're passionate about. And this last week, we actually had Emily on sharing Grow What You Love. There's also a book giveaway, and the details are at brenhaas.com. That's HAAS.com. Put Emily Murphy in the search bar at the top, and you'll find the post there. Here is my interview with Pass the Pistol.
Hi, Bren. How are you?
Much better now that I got you online here. This is awesome. Oh, so good to talk to you. So you're out, you're in Southern California?
I'm actually in Northern California, north of the San Francisco Bay Area.
Wow, that is cool. See, for some reason, I always thought you were like in Southern California, but you guys just have, it's beautiful out there. You can basically grow year round, right?
We can, especially along coastal California, where much of the coast is zone 9 and 10. Even when you get farther north towards the Oregon border,
Nice.
it might dip into zone 8 farther north, but it's really zone 9 because the ocean keeps the temperatures mild.
Nice. Oh gosh, you gotta
Yeah,
love it. You gotta love it.
it's pretty amazing. Though summer fog can put a dent on crops like tomatoes and peppers and things like that.
Sure, sure, that makes sense. Okay,
Yeah.
so this is really cool because I'm used to seeing you on social media. You're very active on there, and so maybe you can let's tell everybody about yourself a little bit. Have you been in California all your life?
Yeah, so I am a native Californian. I'm from Northern California. I'm originally from the Sonoma County area of California, where my parents grew up, and my grandparents immigrated. My maternal grandparents immigrated from Italy to Sonoma and found that it was very much like Tuscany, where they were from. And on my paternal side, at least some of them were Portuguese and came over with whaling ships many years ago and set up farms and were dairy farmers and grew much of their own food. And so that's sort of where my roots are from as far as growing things. But I did spend some time in Sonoma County, and I my stomping grounds are take me further north up near the Oregon border, and I've also spent many years living in the Lake Tahoe area, which is quite different from coastal California. It's technically I was in zone 6B, but it would function more like zone 5A. We
Wow.
would have the extremes were wild. In the summer, we could have nighttime temperatures drop to 35, but the daytime temperatures could be 85.
Wow.
And we could have snow in the beginning of June, and it would snow again in September. Not always, but sometimes. And so the growing season was incredibly short. And because of cold nighttime temperatures, again, it would put a dent in my heat loving crops that really
Sure.
thrive when they have warm soil conditions. And it just wasn't possible when it was 35 at night.
Great. Holy cow. It sounds like my dome. It's like that right now, except we only get it only goes down to about 40, 45 degrees at night. And then, but during the day, if the sun's out, I mean, it can hit 85 in there. So I can totally
That's
relate.
amazing. That's amazing. But that's in the winter for you. That's
Yes.
amazing.
Yeah. So that's cool. You need one. You need a dome, right?
I I would I just think that your dome is fabulous. It's a complete game changer when it comes to growing food
Totally.
and flowers, and it's probably also a nice place to visit in the day when
Yes.
the dome's warm
Yeah.
and there's you're surrounded by your plants. It's probably pretty special.
Yes, it's really cool. It's like a little piece of California to me in Ohio,
In
especially
Ohio, I love that.
especially when the sun's out. But anyways, I didn't mean to like spin off on me here. So
No,
cool.
it's great. I love talking plants and growing things. We learn so much from each other. I love to
Yeah,
hear what other people are growing and how they're growing, what they're growing, and that's great.
I love it. Okay, so are you a mom? I'm guessing.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I'm a mom. I have two girls,
Hmm.
um, and they're pretty fabulous. They inspire me every day, and yeah, they're a big part of my life, of course. And coming back to gardening, gardening for me as a mom is important for many reasons. One, I feel like our gardens, whatever we grow, whether it's a handful of containers or or an in-ground garden or raised beds, that is our most immediate touch point with nature.
Mhm.
And it's really important to me that my kids have had that connection with nature. And we go on hikes and we do those things as well, go to the beach and go camping, but it's really nice to have plants growing and food to pick and pollinators visiting right outside our door. And I also grow things that I want my kids to like to eat.
Love it.
So there's a little there's a an ulterior motive there. Like, okay, kale, it's going to be kale this year. That's going to be the new food that they love. They decide they love, or whatever it is. So yeah,
Right. I
it's
love
pretty
it.
fun.
I love it. I know sometimes when my kids are little, we just go out and plant things. And sometimes if they didn't ask, I wouldn't even tell them what the name of the vegetable was. So, you could get away with it until they go to school, right? And then, so then when they're
That's so
eating,
true.
see, and then when
That's
you're
so true.
eating the leafy greens, they're like, oh, these are so yummy. And they don't know it's spinach or, you know, so they get to school.
It's it's
You know.
It's so true. It's so true. My daughter, when she, I'll pick her up my younger daughter, I'll pick her up from a play date, and the mom will come to me and she'll say, "Do you know what she asked for at lunch? I was serving mac and cheese, and she asked for salad." And then Sinead, my younger daughter, will turn to me and point and say, "She made me into a salad eater."
Oh,
So
that
so
is
funny.
awesome. That is
It's so
awesome.
funny. But I do love your idea of not really saying whatever it might
Yeah,
be, because you never know what the stigmatisms are.
that's right. See? So, anyways, that's fun. Okay, so your family was all from gardening and all that. So I'm assuming as you grew up, you must have been gardening yourself, right?
We always had a garden,
Okay.
and we had at my home. We always had a small plot. My grandmother, I would spend the summers with my maternal grandmother, and she had a small homestead, so there was much bigger garden and cows and chickens and horses. And then, and as I mentioned, my paternal grandfather had a farm, and a pear orchard, and so I had that exposure, which was fabulous. I can't say that as a kid I loved the actual act of gardening. I think I loved playing. I loved playing in the garden next to whoever was gardening, and if I was asked to weed, I think I remember being very upset about it. Like, don't ask me to pull weeds. It was torture.
Right.
It's so funny, and now I actually really enjoy it. So fun.
See, that's cool. I think we all kind of go through that. Seriously.
I think so too. Somebody like, can you just pay me a nickel a weed? Maybe then I'll be happy doing it. But that was when I was like 8.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's awesome. So where you're at now, are you able to have chickens and things like that? Or
We could have chickens. We moved from the Lake Tahoe area down to the Bay Area, in north of San Francisco, and
Mhm.
we're renting here. We could have chickens, but it doesn't really fit with
Sure.
our with renting. It's not super easy. I did run school gardens. I just left school gardens actually to write the book, to write Grow What You Love.
Mhm.
And the last school garden where I worked, we had chickens there, and that was sort of my chicken fix, because it is so much fun to have chickens and to gather eggs and sort of have them clucking in the background, or to be able to, give them your
Right.
slugs and snails from the morning, and, not have to squish them, but,
I know, that
have them
is
turn
so
into eggs.
cool.
It's so cool.
That's
So
why
now
I
I
would
wish we could.
I would like some chickens just for that, because it's so cool how they eat the bad bugs, or they eat bugs, so that's cool. But my neighbor has chickens, so we just barter. I'll give her greens or something, and she'll give me some eggs, so it works out good.
Oh, that's perfect. That's how it should be.
Yeah,
A sharing economy. Like,
right.
I have a bunch of green beans. You have eggs. Let's swap.
Yeah, perfect. It's perfect. So, and the reason I ask about the chickens and that, because I think I saw them in your book, or I may have seen them on your Instagram. I'm not sure, because I mean, you share daily on Instagram these beautiful images, and it's literally, if people want to bring that home with them, and they should have it on their countertop, this book is it. I mean, the photos are just gorgeous.
Oh, thank you. Thanks
I
so
think
much. Yeah.
I think I did see some chickens in the book too, right? I can't remember now.
I don't think there's chickens in the book, but there are chickens on my Instagram
Yes.
feed, and
Okay.
the chickens in my Instagram feed are from the school garden.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's probably Pepper or Coco or one of those girls that
I
kept me
love
company.
it.
Yeah.
All right. So online, people can follow you at Pass the Pistol. Pistol. Did I say that right? Pistol.
You good. Pass
Okay.
the pistol, and it's past the flower, and pistol is as in the female part of the flower, and it's spelled Pistil.
Perfect.
Yeah, and that's where I am. Yeah.
It was kind of confusing when I first saw you a couple of years ago online. I'm like, what is this? I had no idea that was a part of a flower. Oops.
Yes, part of a flower. And my whole my whole gist was grow what you love and pass it on, pass the pistol. So sort of that was my attempt at a play on words.
I love it. And people can find you everywhere. You have a beautiful blog, which I hope we could talk a little bit about what inspired you to start blogging about your garden.
I think I reached a point where I had been teaching. I actually was a classroom teacher for a number of years, and which I loved for many reasons, especially my students. But I also felt like I'd kind of moved away from my roots as having started out with botany and environmental science in college. And I wanted to spend more time thinking about plants and talking about plants and writing about them. And I felt that starting a blog would be a commitment to myself, set up a schedule for myself to write something every week. So I'd improve my writing skills, but also to continue learning and really diving into the greater garden community and listen to what other people were talking about. And I love that, not just with my blog, but with, say, social media, that we're always sharing and learning from each other. And I really love that piece. And I think that, our gardens aren't just for ourselves, they're for each other, and they make a difference in our communities. And I think with my blog, I was hoping to find a way to make that a more deliberate part of my life. And it's sort of the basics of how I dove into blogging, and which led me to writing Grow What You Love, and meeting people like you, Bren, and so many other garden chat friends that we have online. And
I know they're great community. I know I learned a lot from you, and your photographs just always inspire me to try to grow new things, and that's cool. And number one, grow what you love, right?
And grow what you love. That's right. And and a big part of Grow What You Love, you mentioned the photography, and it's something I really want to continue developing for myself. I love the photographic component, and what I was hoping in the book was to have the book read in multiple ways. So you could read the book cover to cover, or you could read the book just for its images and for the personal notes and the workshops, and just really dive into it by, as you're saying, looking at the images, because I think that sometimes we get as much from the photographs as we do from the written word, and I think that together they can be pretty powerful.
Totally. I love it. So cool. So I know I wanted to ask you, just because someday, I'm interested in writing a book. Maybe you could share some tips with someone, who is considering something like this.
Yeah, I think writing a book, I have to say, was probably one of the hardest things I've ever done. And it's so funny because when I started down the path of trying to, develop a proposal and figure out how to pitch it, I talked to LaManda Joy, who is the founder of The Garden and the Peterson Project in Chicago, and she had just finished her book, Starting a Community Garden, The Essential Handbook, and she said the same thing. She's like, okay, I know you're about to start this journey, but it was one of the hardest things I've ever done. And she also said, but it was also one of the most rewarding. And so I held on to that as my first bit of inspiration and tip for, what would be in store if I really did sort of charge down this road. And I think we have to be prepared when you're writing a book to sort of to dedicate much of your time to the process. And it starts, of course, with a book proposal and really thinking about your topic and how that topic is unique, and who your audience is and what your voice is. And part of developing your voice, of course, is actually writing and spending time writing to find that voice. And then also paying attention and listening to other people, and figuring out what's really important to people and what might be of use or benefit to others. And once you kind of find that formula, and then start working on your proposal. And one of the other things I found to be really helpful, one of the things that most book proposals require, especially for a garden type book, a nonfiction book, is comparative titles. And so when you dig around to look at other, fabulous books that have inspired all of us, I'm sure, what do those books do? What do they say? And how can my book be different and unique? I think that's another important piece to consider when developing a proposal. I have to say that Timber Press publishing company, I published with Firefly Books out of Toronto, but Timber Press is another fabulous company that focuses mostly on garden books. And on their website, they actually have a formula for a book proposal. So if anyone is interested, it's a great tool. Like, what is a book proposal? What does it include? And you'll quickly find that a book proposal is really like a business plan, honestly. Like, this is my book, this is my idea, this is how I'm going to take it to market, and this is how it can be of value to the world. And they lay it all out for you on their website. Fabulous. So I started really there, actually.
Yeah.
Isn't that great?
I didn't even know they had that.
I think I found it by chance, and I was so happy because it gave me a lot of direction that I otherwise didn't have.
Very cool. That is awesome. That's very helpful. So And not everybody's meant to write a book, but everybody can grow something, especially something you love, right? So,
That I completely agree, and and the sharing economy that we were talking about earlier, platforms like Instagram, you don't even need to have a blog anymore. Platforms like Instagram allow you to microblog, and you can post an image, you can talk about it, and you can share your day that way. And I think that's pretty neat. If you have listeners and readers that are interested in kind of diving into that world, it might be that something like Instagram or even Twitter are great places to start figuring out how that might work. Yeah.
That's true. And it's easy. And you use your phone, and everybody has their cell phone on them. So there's no excuse not to blog.
There's no excuse. But I have to say that, I'm sure you find it frustrating sometimes. Being in front of your phone can be exhausting.
Yeah.
And it can, as great as it can be equally as frustrating. And I was hoping with the book to sort of map out a lifestyle of organic living where, you can grow a few things, focus on the plants you love, and compare those plants you love to your climate and growing conditions and what's really possible. Mm-hmm. And also then cross-check those things with the recipes you cook with. What are the foods you love to eat? What are your favorite recipes? Or if you're not sure, maybe you're new to cooking, which is possible. I was just reading a Harvard Business Review article that said that in the last 15 years, Americans have was a third of Americans have the interest in cooking, the love of cooking, has dropped by 1/3 in the U.S.
Wow.
In just 15 years, and
wow.
And they link it to chef shows. It was so interesting. They said that while interest in cooking has declined, the rise of viewership in chef shows like Iron Chef, those cooking shows has risen. And they said that the study actually found that people's confidence is kind of going away. Their confidence in their own ability to cook, because we're shown these images of elaborate meals. And I found that when you grow a few ingredients of your own, the food is so fresh and the flavors are so alive and vibrant that you don't need to make elaborate dishes for them to be fabulous. They can just be something so simple as cucumbers that are sliced up with olive oil and tossed with olive oil and vinegar, and they can be amazing because you grew them in your garden. So anyway, yeah.
I totally agree with you. You're right. And there's a lot of cool things, like I'll throw into recipes that I never imagined, and it was because somebody gave me a seed to try, right? And it just grew beautiful, and like arugula. Years ago you hardly saw arugula at grocery stores, at least in my area. And and so I started growing the seed because it's so easy to grow, and it's amazing. I love it. And a lot of people don't like it. I know it can be kind of spicy, but it's so good if you just saute it a little, but it's awesome.
You're so right. I love that, actually. I think that sometimes it's the plants like arugula that lead us to try new foods and find new ways to eat from garden to table. And arugula is a great example because it's so good for you. Mm-hmm. The flavor is amazing, and you can do so much with it, and it's so easy to grow.
Totally.
It's kind of hard to go wrong.
I know, right? So what are you excited to grow this year in your garden?
I am looking forward to all my usual suspects, of course. So I'm in coastal California, as I mentioned, where we get summer fog. And so I look forward to tomatoes like early girls that have a shorter growing season, sun gold tomatoes, sweet 100s, Romas, those types of tomatoes. I always grow cucumbers, even though they don't always grow for me because of summer fog.
Right.
But right. So I do have a new garden. I garden in a community garden plot, and that gets more heat. And last summer, I had great cucumber harvest.
Nice.
But I'm also really looking forward to growing more flowers this year. I'm really excited to grow more flowers for cutting and flowers for pollinators, and mix those in even more so into my garden with the food I'm growing.
I love it. And it's so nice to just be able to go out in the garden and cut a nice little bouquet, even if it's just like a little tiny one that fits in a shot glass or something. It's just, I do that a lot actually, especially early in the season or like right now out in my little Florida back there, in the dome, just to go out and just cut a few, like even like if it's borage flowers or geraniums, whatever. It's just so happy, right?
Isn't it happy? It's amazing how something so simple can bring so much joy.
I love it. So
I do too.
I know you're busy. You're very busy. People can follow you on Instagram, Twitter. They can follow you everywhere. But the best place to find you would probably be your website, maybe?
Yeah, my blog, pastthepistil.com, PISTIL.com. And then, of course, my book, Grow What You Love, which can be found wherever books are sold. Of course, the big stores, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, but also your local bookstore, maybe your garden center. Look for it. I'm so proud of it, and I cannot wait to hear what people think. And as you know, I put so much into it. And when you do that, it's incredibly rewarding to hear feedback. So I appreciate any and all of that.
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing with us today.
Thank you, Bren. I really appreciate you having me on your podcast. I've loved meeting you, and I cannot wait to meet you in person.
I know. You're going to have to come visit me in Ohio. How about that?
I would love that. I'd love to see you and your dome.
All right. Thank you, Emily.
Thanks so much, Bren.
So click on over to my website at brenhaas.com. That's BRENHAAS.com, and put Emily Murphy in the search at the top to find the book giveaway information and links mentioned in this show. Thanks for tuning in to the show today. I'm getting really excited as spring arrives, sharing live streams almost daily on social media. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, and I just did a Twitter live stream. There's snow falling right now. It's crazy. You can find me at Bren Haas as well. All that info and fun stuff is on my website. I want to connect with you, so click over, check out all the current events. And hey, what are you excited to grow this season? I hope this show inspired you to get out and grow.